Declan Rice spat on the ground directly at Harry Kane's feet during a training session in Denver, and teammates had to physically separate them before it turned into something worse. It wasn't just a heated moment. It wasn't a tactical disagreement that got out of hand. It wasn't the media blowing things out of proportion. This is serious. Nothing like this has ever been seen 9 days before a World Cup opener, not with England's captain and vice-captain at the center of it, and there's a detail the FA still hasn't confirmed publicly. Sources close to the camp say a member of the coaching staff captured the entire confrontation on a tablet, and that footage hasn't been released to anyone outside the inner circle yet. And the worst hasn't even come to light yet. Over the next few minutes, you'll understand exactly what happened, why it escalated so fast, and why this changes everything for England at the World Cup. When this happens, days before your tournament opener, it's not just any problem. You're talking about the captain and vice-captain, the two players who are supposed to hold the dressing room together, and they can barely look at each other. Thomas Tuchel is watching his squad splinter before the first whistle. Harry Kane's authority as captain is being questioned in front of the entire team, and Declan Rice has just crossed a line that you don't come back from easily. The behind the scenes of this is worse than it looks from the outside, because this wasn't a one-off explosion. This has been building for months. It all started during a tactical drill at England's training facility in Colorado. The squad was working through build-up sequences, the kind of routine work you do every session, and Declan Rice was standing 15 yards from goal watching Harry Kane drop deep into the number 10 space again. Rice had his hands on hips. You could see the frustration building, and then he shouted something. Teammates nearby say they heard him yell, "Stay up top!" and started walking toward Kane. Kane turned around, said something back, and Rice's voice rose. The ball sat untouched on the turf. Rice gestured at the space Kane had vacated, then pointed at his own feet, and Kane closed the distance between them until they were 3 feet apart, face to face. That's when Declan Rice turned his head slightly to the side and spat, hard and deliberate, onto the grass between Harry Kane's boots. Kane's jaw clenched. He stepped forward. Kyle Walker sprinted in from the back line, Jude Bellingham grabbed Rice's arm, and Kane shoved Rice's shoulder with both hands. Jordan Pickford screamed something from the goal, his voice cutting across the entire pitch, and Thomas Tuchel blew his whistle 3 times, sharp and panicked, trying to regain control. Walker got between them, both hands on Kane's chest, pushing him back, and Rice shook off Bellingham and walked away. Then he spat again. Nobody saw it coming. But to understand why this is so serious, you need to know what came before. Declan Rice and Harry Kane have clashed quietly for months over England's tactical identity, and it's been eating away at the dressing room without most people noticing. Rice believes the team needs to evolve, that Kane dropping deep disrupts the midfield rotations and leaves Ollie Watkins or Ivan Toney isolated when they come on. Kane, according to those close to him, feels Rice has overstepped since becoming Arsenal captain, trying to impose his club's system on the national team. At Arsenal, Rice operates in a free-flowing setup built around aggressive forward movement. At Bayern Munich, Kane thrives dropping deep to create, pulling defenders out of position and threading passes. The philosophical gap has widened, and teammates reportedly noticed the two barely spoke during the March qualifiers. Add the pressure of a World Cup on home soil, Thomas Tuchel's demand for total commitment, and the memory of past tournament failures, and something had to give. And hold on, because the most controversial detail I've saved for the end. The dressing room split clean down the middle after the incident. Senior players, including Kyle Walker and Jordan Henderson, reportedly stood by Harry Kane, emphasizing respect for the captain and the importance of hierarchy. Younger players, especially those from Arsenal and clubs with progressive tactical systems, allegedly sympathized with Declan Rice's frustration, even if they condemned the manner in which he expressed it. Bukayo Saka, Rice's Arsenal teammate, stayed silent during the confrontation but later spoke privately with Rice. What was said, nobody knows. Jude Bellingham, who tried to calm Rice down in the moment, is reportedly torn between loyalty to his midfield partner and respect for Kane's experience. Coaching staff held an emergency meeting immediately after training ended, and sources say Thomas Tuchel is furious, considering disciplinary action that could reshape the entire squad dynamic. The FA is monitoring the situation closely, aware that internal conflict could derail the tournament before a single match is played. Social media exploded within hours, with fans and pundits divided straight down the middle. Some are calling Declan Rice disrespectful and immature, saying he disgraced the captain and undermined the team's unity at the worst possible moment. Others are praising him for holding Harry Kane accountable, arguing that past tournaments failed because nobody was willing to challenge outdated approaches. Press coverage framed it as a generational and philosophical divide. Old guard versus new school, individual brilliance versus collective system, loyalty to the captain versus loyalty to winning. And that's where it gets even more serious, because Thomas Tuchel must decide by the end of this week whether Declan Rice starts against Iran on June 19th. If he benches Rice, England loses midfield control, physicality, and one of their most important ball progressors. But if Rice starts alongside Harry Kane, every pass between them becomes the storyline. Every gesture analyzed for hidden tension, and the atmosphere in the dressing room could turn toxic. The clock is ticking. The FIFA deadline for squad changes is June 15th, still technically possible if Tuchel decides the situation is unsalvageable. Tactically, Tuchel may adjust Kane's positioning to avoid further conflict, but that risks limiting England's all-time leading scorer, the man with more than 60 international goals, in a tournament where every chance counts. Now, Thomas Tuchel is caught between two bad decisions. If he punishes Rice publicly, he risks alienating a core player and the younger faction of the dressing room that quietly agrees with him, and he signals that seniority trumps merit. But if he lets it slide or handles it privately, he undermines Harry Kane's captaincy, sets a precedent that disrespect is tolerated under pressure, and faces questions about whether he has control of his squad. There is no clean answer. The squad's mood has shifted. Training sessions are reportedly tense, with less banter and more watching. Smaller cliques have formed. If England stumbles early in the tournament, this incident will be cited as the turning point, the moment the dressing room fractured and the dream fell apart. And there's a detail that completely changes the story. According to information going around, a private team meeting was held that evening at the hotel, and Declan Rice allegedly refused to apologize unless Harry Kane admitted his positioning was limiting the team. No resolution was reached. Both players left the room without shaking hands. The divide is real, and it's deep. England's 2026 World Cup campaign hasn't even started, and the two players who were supposed to lead them through it can barely be in the same room. You, as a fan, know what this means. This is the kind of rift that defines tournaments, the kind of behind-the-scenes chaos that turns favorites into early exits. And look, this is far from over. This is the information going around so far. Over the next few hours, new details should drip out, and they could turn this whole story upside down. Over to you. Was Declan Rice right to challenge Harry Kane even if he crossed the line? Or does his behavior prove he is not ready to lead England? Write it down below. And if you don't want to find out about the next bombshell after everyone else, subscribe and turn on notifications now. Because when this fully blows up, you'll want to be the first to know, not the last. But what came next? Nobody saw coming. Strong rumors point to Thomas Tuchel calling Harry Kane into a private one-on-one meeting the following morning. And what's being said behind the scenes is that Kane allegedly told Tuchel he would consider stepping down as captain if it meant preserving squad unity. That's how serious this has become. England's all-time leading scorer, the man who's worn the armband through multiple tournaments, is reportedly willing to give it up because the rift with Declan Rice has made his position untenable. Sources close to the squad assure us that Tuchel immediately shut down the idea, insisting Kane remains captain. But the fact that the conversation even happened tells you everything about how fractured this dressing room has become. And there's someone who comes out winning from all this. Kobbie Mainoo and Jude Bellingham, the two youngest voices in that midfield, have reportedly gained influence in the aftermath. If Declan Rice is benched or sidelined, Mainoo steps into a more prominent role alongside Bellingham, and the tactical identity Rice was fighting for might actually happen by default. But at what cost? You're talking about losing one of England's most complete midfielders because he couldn't control his emotions for 30 seconds on a training pitch in Denver. The thing is, this didn't start yesterday, and it won't end tomorrow. What's being said in the camp is that other players are now choosing sides in ways that go beyond Rice and Harry Kane. Marcus Rashford and Anthony Gordon have reportedly stayed neutral, keeping their heads down and focusing on their own preparation. But Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice's closest ally in the squad, has allegedly made it clear in private conversations that he believes Kane's style of play is holding the attack back. On the other side, John Stones and Mark Guehi are said to be frustrated with Rice for turning a tactical disagreement into a public spectacle that could define the tournament for all the wrong reasons. Now hold on, because this is where it all falls apart. According to the channel's findings, that tablet recording captured by a coaching staff member hasn't just been kept internal. It leaked that senior figures within the FA have requested to view the footage, which means this is no longer just a squad issue. This is institutional. If the FA steps in and mandates disciplinary action, Thomas Tuchel loses control of his own team before the World Cup even begins. If they don't act, the public perception becomes that England tolerated disrespect at the highest level and prioritized winning over accountability. The opener against Iran is 9 days away. Declan Rice is still training with the squad, but sources say the atmosphere on the pitch is unbearable, with teammates avoiding extended conversations and coaching staff micromanaging every interaction to prevent further confrontation. Harry Kane has continued to lead warm-ups and tactical discussions, but people close to him say the weight of the situation is affecting his focus. You, as a fan, know what happens when a squad goes into a major tournament distracted. It doesn't matter how talented the players are. It doesn't matter how good the tactics are. If the dressing room is split, if the captain and vice-captain can't function in the same space, everything falls apart under pressure. And that wasn't even the worst. The worst came after. It leaked that Declan Rice has privately told teammates he has no regrets about the confrontation, that he would do it again if it meant forcing a conversation about England's tactical direction. That's not contrition. That's defiance. And if Thomas Tuchel can't bring Rice and Harry Kane to some kind of resolution before June 19th, England's 2026 World Cup campaign will be remembered not for what happened on the pitch, but for what happened on a training ground in Colorado when everything broke.